Views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Well, hello there, and welcome to Real Reviews. This is episode 498 as we march towards 500, and I'm so happy to be joined by an old friend. You know him. He's the host of Sun Prairie News, among many other things. It's Dan Presser.
Good to be here as always, Jamison. 2 more and you're at 500.
We're almost there. It's
That's
crazy.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Wow. How many years have you been doing this now?
Well, we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary.
10 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Almost.
It's crazy.
Good to be here with you as you transition into Santa, too.
Yeah, it's a slow transition. We're getting there. It is almost the holiday season.
One of his helpers, right?
Yeah, there you go. So we have a bunch of movies to talk about this week. We have a few on the marquee and a streaming film. And so let's get started with what we have. First on the marquee is Marvel's new film. It is The Marvels. Marvel back with a new team up in what is a Captain Marvel sequel, but also a continuation of characters that we saw gain their powers in Marvel TV shows. Carol Danvers, played by Brie Larson, has been out traveling the universe for years, unaware of the problems that are happening back home. There's a set of magical gauntlets. Stick with me here, Dan. A set of magical gauntlets, one which Kamala Khan, played by Iman Vellani, she has one of them, and it's given her powers. The other has been retrieved by a Kree warrior named Dar-Benn, who is played by Zoe Ashton. And she is out looking for the matching set. You can't just have one bangle. You got to have both.
They're much better that way.
And like I said, Kamala Khan has one that has turned her into Miss Marvel, which, of course, there was the TV series for that. She's a teenager living with her parents, and she's obsessed with Captain Marvel and dreaming of teaming up with her. Also on Earth, we have Monica Rambeau, played by Tiana Paris, who we saw gain some powers in WandaVision. She's an astronaut who encounters something unknown in space, and it turns out to be a cosmic jump point, which causes all three ladies to switch places. And this leads to a fun opening action set piece with a fight taking place in different points in the universe, and the ladies just kind of randomly popping up in each fight. Goose the cat is going crazy, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really in control of these powers and the switching. This movie also, for the time we're in right now, deals with some kind of rough subject matter, as you have the Kree, who have promised the Skrulls that once the Kree gain powers, and that they're going to take care of them.
Right.
We're going to help you out. And then when the Annihilator shows up, Dar-Benn changes her mind and promises to eliminate where the Skrulls live.
Destroy them all.
Yeah, they're ripped out of the news. So the Kree need to rebuild their home of Hala after the events of Captain Marvel. See, there's a lot going on in here.
Oh.
And it feels like with most Marvel properties these days, you have to do a lot of homework in order to be able to walk into a movie.
That's how I felt. And we've talked about this many times. I'm not like a big Marvel fan. Mm-hmm. I appreciate the series, and I appreciate all of that they've done. And clearly they are in charge of the box office now, Marvel's. But I didn't know a lot of the backstory with this, and there was a lot where I was like, well, I'm just going to guess this is what's happening here.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to, like them, with the way they were changing places, the movie just seemed to jump all over the place for me.
Well, yeah, it was kind of explained midway through the movie, like, oh, we each have light powers, so we're able to switch places in the universe. And I did like the scene where they're kind of training to try and hone it. Like, can we use this?
A little Rocky feel to it.
Yeah, a little training montage.
Yeah, right. That was okay. And I also liked, like you said, it was fun when they did switch places because it added some comedy to it. Suddenly they're in Miss Marvel's house, and that family added kind of the comedy relief to the whole show, and I enjoyed that piece of it. But for me, for a while there, I sat there thinking like, so what's making them jump? Why are they jumping? What are they doing with their hands to make them? So then I was kind of losing track of what was happening in the movie.
Yeah, that's fair. There's some points in here I enjoyed. Like there's a moment in the middle of the movie kind of where we kind of stop down onto this musical planet that Carol has a history with.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, this is like out of nowhere.
Was that from another movie or no? That was
No,
just
I don't
okay.
think so.
All right.
Yeah, I thought that was just kind of funny because it seemed like such a left turn.
It did, and it was fun. They
sing.
they made some fun out of themselves, and if you were bilingual, you could actually speak.
There you go.
And
yeah,
sing,
right.
so.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I struggle with this movie because I like this movie. I don't think it was necessarily good, but I had fun with it.
That's fair.
I thought Captain Marvel, the first Captain Marvel, was a good movie. I thought that was an actually good movie. I thought this one was fun and had a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I think part of it is I just really like the character of Ms. Marvel, and I like Captain Marvel. I like all three of them, actually. But I haven't been a big fan of the most recent Marvel movies. I think that most of them have had major debilitating flaws in them that have made me really stop paying attention and caring.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel like you have to have a lot of homework done beforehand to walk into them, and a lot of times when the movie doesn't pay off, then I don't care about going forward. Like it's like these aren't working.
I agree with you, and my favorite character in this movie was Miss Marvel.
Yeah.
She just plays that role well.
Big hard-eyed teen.
But,
like,
and she's fun, and she kind of keeps it light. I like Brie Larson as an actress, but I just don't believe her as Captain Marvel.
Oh, okay.
And that's probably not fair because this script, there's just nothing. There's not a lot there to really act with. It seems like.
They kind of give her and Monica Rambeau a little thing of like the hurt feelings, and we kind of figure out why. And they try. It feels like they try to do like a Previously On, where we get a little thing of like how Kamala Khan got her powers. We do a little dream sequence to find out why Monica, what happened with her. Like it was kind of weird, and we're this deep into the universe, and it did feel like we have to, let's tell people kind of who these characters are.
That was well into the film.
Yeah, it was. It really was. I think one of the other problems that I've had with Marvel recently, actually, kind of the entire run, even through the great movies, is I feel like a lot of times they put these stinger scenes at the end of movies. This one's no different. We get a mid-credit stinger. We introduce characters, plot lines, threads, and then they never pay them off. There's so many characters that they've teased at the end of movies, and then we never get. And after a while, I'm going, wait, what happened to? I thought we were going to do this guy. What happened to? No,
that movie's still coming. It's out there.
Unfortunately, they're not, because next year Deadpool 3 is the only Marvel movie on the schedule.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going to be a year without Marvel next year.
One other thing I wanted to ask you about: what did you think of the special effects in this, and really the sets and costumes? It felt a little Saturday morning-ish to me, like
that's a good
an old
point.
Shazam kind of feel
point.
to me.
Yeah. I did love like the musical world. I thought it looked beautiful. I thought that looked really cool.
I agree.
I can see what you're saying though with some of that. It just didn't have the pastiche that we've had in previous ones.
Right. It was not. It wasn't Iron Man.
No. And I thought there was kind of a lack of focus in the movie and a lack of focus in the editing. I felt like this movie was messed with a lot.
That's what it felt
time.
like to me too.
And so that you start to lose a little bit of that. But ultimately, what did you end up giving the Marvels?
So, like you, I enjoyed the movie, but I just didn't think it was a really good movie. So I gave it a 2.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I think I had a little more fun with it. I don't think it was good, but I had fun. Part of it, too, is I bring my daughter along. She's loving it.
Helpful.
We have a long discussion about how cool these characters are.
Yep.
I end up giving it 3 stars because I haven't had fun in a Marvel movie in a while, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so at least I had fun with this one.
Yeah,
so
I was entertained.
Yeah,
agree.
You got that. All right, let's move on to what else we have. What do you have for us?
So I had The Holdovers, which is directed by Alexander Payne, and it stars Paul Giamatti, who plays Paul Hunnam. He's a pompous, vitriolic instructor of ancient civilizations at this Randy prep school in Massachusetts, and it's set in 1970, which right off the bat makes it cool to me.
Looks like 1970.
It does. It's like Wonder Years with Dead Poet Society. He's tasked with supervising the students who aren't able to go home. They're the holdovers for the holidays, and he's the kind of instructor who prides himself as being like this principled, tough educator. He's not afraid to flunk one of his rich parents' kids, and as you might expect, the students are pretty hard on him too. He just so happens to have a glass eye, and so they'll set little mind traps for him, and they tell their dads on him, and the school, they're tough on him. They're tough on the instructor.
Not just the students, but the staff.
The staff
headmaster.
he's that instructor in the school who everybody can kind of get after at times.
Yeah.
Behind his back, they call him Walleye, you
Yeah.
know, so there's things like that. And he starts out supervising 5 kids during the 2-week Christmas holiday break, but in what can only be called, and I don't want to ruin it for you, this hilarious kind of Christmas miracle, so to speak, 4 of them are whisked away. And so he's left with one of the students whose name is Angus Tully, played by Dominic Sessa. I think, Sessa, that's his name. He's kind of this pseudo-cool kid who he's not really able to leave for his trip to St. Kitts because they can't get a hold of his parents, and then his mom just leaves without him.
Yeah, his mom chooses her new husband over him.
Over her
I want
son.
to hang out with him.
So he's stranded with this pompous instructor guy. It's when these two are left together that the movie really just becomes less of a breakfast club and more of an emotional banquet to me.
Yeah.
It really gets into the meat of the film and it becomes what I think is really a surprising, wonderful holiday watch. I really enjoyed it. The movie is everything that Marvel is not to me. The script is wonderfully written by David Hemmingson. There's some sharp comedy, there's attitude, little nuggets of wisdom, and Payne's finesse with characterization and really excellent actors takes this story to the next level for me. I mean, Payne's done some great stuff.
Well, and with Giamatti.
With
they did
Giamatti for Sideways.
Together, which kind of got him burst onto the scene.
Yeah, and this was a different role for Giamatti, too. I think this might have been my favorite role I ever saw Giamatti
There's
in.
nothing I love more than exasperated Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
I love it when he's that.
Yes.
You know, a lot of times he plays sad sack, and that's kind of his lot in life, I think, as an actor.
And that
to
gets
play
a little
sad
tiring.
Sack.
Yep.
And this is kind of that.
It
but
is.
He isn't. Yes, he gets dumped on behind his back and to his face a lot of times. But like you said, the introduction to him is of this kind of domineering guy who resents these privileged kids who have their life already laid out ahead of them, and he might be the speed bump to that life. Like, no, you know, I know you're already planning on going here, and this job has been handed to you, but first you got to get through my class.
Right.
I'm not going to give you the A that you want.
And he even tells Angus that at one point, that he's bitter about the world, and I think you are too. They kind of have, I mean, that's where this movie, it's Payne just kind of nimbly walks through these emotions. You've got grieving, you've got bitterness, you have joy, you have love, and the relationships. And, we meet some of those typical college administrators and some of those typical characters you expect to see in a show like this, but you laugh. You cry, there's just moments in this film that it just makes it a good holiday movie. And Divine Joy Randolph, as Mary, who is the cook at the school, and there's a great scene in this film where she cooks dinner for the kids, and you get a little insight into Giamatti's character here too. He invites her to eat with them, and one of the students objects, and Giamatti.
Yeah.
He gets pretty angry, and it's just a great moment. And she's great.
She's a great character. She's a grieving mother, her recently deceased son.
In Vietnam.
She's working here. She's dealing with stuff, and she's kind of the sane voice in this movie.
She's his conscience, really.
She is,
yeah.
but she has these incredibly sweet moments with Giamatti.
Yes.
They have some great moments. The character of Paul Hunnam, he's a guy who he likes to be alone. He loves a drink.
Yep.
And that comes up. And Alexander Payne puts so much on this character. I mean, he's a guy who has a bevy of unlikable traits. Right? I mean, and then they add in like, oh yeah, I also have this fish odor to me. And they're just piling on these things that would make him unlikable. And they don't make it like, oh, he's just a big softy at heart. Like, yeah, he's well-rounded.
He's complex.
He's not just, you think where this is going to go, like, oh, and then there's going to be a sweet turn, but he's much more complex, and the relationship between he and Angus Tully, I really enjoyed that. Like, I laughed out loud in this movie.
Me too.
I wiped tears
Same.
in this movie.
Same.
I was all over the place with it, and it has a ton of heart. It's not just a sappy story.
No.
It's a great, well-written, well-done movie.
And if you're like me, you'll want to do exactly what the title says. You want to sit in the theater and be a holdover and watch it again. I want to go back to this film.
I'm planning on it. When I was watching it, I'm going, I can't wait to watch this again. I'm only halfway through the movie, and I'm already thinking, I can't wait to rewatch this.
Same. The same thing. This
Especially
is probably
as we roll
one of
into
my
the holiday
favorites.
season. I mean, it's got that feel of, it reminded me of my childhood holiday season. Just everything about it.
Well, and we talked about it. The look, the 70s look, I think they shot it in 35 millimeters, so it kind of gave it that
I mean, we
warmth
knew
to
from the trailer looked like a throwback trailer to
the graphics,
early,
everything.
like a VHS like, coming out. Like, oh
Yeah.
man, this looks so good.
So what did you end up giving it?
Well, I'll ask you
You're
because your
asking me?
score
Okay.
is loaded up first.
Oh, okay. So I gave this film a 4. I liked it that much. I will go back to see it. I want to see it with my wife now.
Yeah.
It's one of those films I think I could go back to every year at the holidays.
I love it. Yeah, I give it 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I can see that.
I was excited. Like when my son comes home from college this week, I want to take him to go see this. I think he
Yes.
would really connect to it. Like, yeah, it's a great one. The
I'm with you.
Holdovers is
And a surprise to me. Really.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it.
it's great. I love Giamatti. All right, I have a film that I went and saw. Speaking of the holiday season, I did not force you to see it. It is the new Eli Roth horror film. It's called Thanksgiving. Director Eli Roth. This film is set in Plymouth, Massachusetts. A massive pre-Black Friday sale at a big box store on Thanksgiving night leads to tragedy. Several people are killed, several maimed, all trying to get their free waffle irons, and it gets real gory in here, heads up. The group of teenagers that we follow in this film is there, and they film it all for the content and for the likes. We cut to 1 year later. We are back in the town, and we're still with this group of teens. You get your typical fare for these films, the jerk jock, the pretty girls who go along with everything, the one main girl who seems to be a little separate from the group. She's like the Sydney in Scream.
Oh.
In this film, it's a girl named Jess, who's played by Nell Verlaque. And someone has been studying the video of that tragedy of that night a year ago to punish those who participated. And that someone chooses to wear a John Carver mask, who is one of the founders of Plymouth, and a pilgrim hat while wielding an axe.
Of course.
But as he eliminates people, his kills and his methods get diverse and methodical. And we throw in the use of some classic Thanksgiving items to kill, like sticking some corncob skewers into people's ears.
Oh my gosh.
People getting basted and baked. All kinds of horrifying things are happening, and as the bodies pile up in increasingly horrifying fashion, including a cop who's murdered, the town's response to all this is to still hold their Thanksgiving Day parade,
You can't
which
let
is
that go
only
away.
going to lead to more tragedy. And this is classic Eli Roth. It's gore over story. It's cold leftover turkey, which can be satisfying, but it's usually pretty dry. The star of this movie, I guess the name you would know is Patrick Dempsey is here as the sheriff.
Really? Patrick Dempsey?
The world's sexiest man, Patrick Dempsey.
Yeah, from how long ago was that?
Well, he just got it this week.
Oh, really?
People magazine's. He beat Jason Kelsey.
Wasn't he Dr. McDreamy?
McDreamy, yes.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
now he is the sheriff in Eli Roth's
Well,
Thanksgiving.
that'll get people to go, right?
I never understood the geography of where things were happening in this movie. Like, people are just running around, and people are popping out. And I'm trying to figure out, where's this building? Is this all one place we're all in? It made no sense to me. The teens were all formulaic. They were out of any of these teen horror movies.
Yep.
You
expected that, though.
Yeah. It kind of dances around themes of corporate greed, of the store who's continuing on even though people were killed the year before.
Yeah.
Like, we need to make money.
Yeah.
Social
Right
media.
Mart.
Yeah, right Mart. Social media poisoning and all this. And there's some decent jump scares. It doesn't rely on the jump scares, which I like. Because Eli Roth is very happy to let you see the danger coming,
Yeah.
and then just ups the gore level more
Yeah.
to what you wouldn't expect. Patrick Dempsey, by far the worst part of this film.
Really?
Oh man, so this takes place in in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Yeah, I saw some of those shots in the trailer made it look, there was some scenes in there that reminded me of the Holdovers.
Yeah, exactly. He's the only one who's attempting an accent. Everyone else is like, we're not going to try this Boston accent, right? He does, but it's a whack-a-mole through the movie of what accent he's going for. It's all over the place. At one point, I'm like, was he born in Australia? Like, what is going on with this accent? Just, dude, what are you
that
doing?
was part of the shtick.
Oh, it was so bad. Also, I figured out who the killer in this movie was 25 minutes into the movie.
Oh.
So that's kind of rough. There wasn't a whole lot of deception. They tried a couple of red herrings, but they were really weak.
Was there any really good performances?
Not really.
No, okay.
Nothing stood out. It was more just the horror. I mean, apparently the human body, I learned, carries 30 gallons of blood in it because that's what happens every time someone gets killed in this.
So educational as well as scary.
And the best part, I guess, for it was I went opening night last night. The crowd was into it. It was a full house.
Wow.
They were into it.
Wow.
Which makes horror movies more fun.
For sure, yeah.
So I didn't hate it, but it wasn't good. The kills were interesting, which I'll give it. So I ended up giving this a really weak 2.5 stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's
all right.
If you like those kind of
creative
movies.
kills. Yeah, I'm not a big gore guy, so.
Yeah, me neither.
That's it.
I'm
All right.
glad you didn't ask me to go to that one.
Yeah, you wouldn't have enjoyed it. All right, let's move to our streaming spotlight, sir, where we have over on Netflix, right?
Yeah, The Killers.
The Killer from director David Fincher stars Michael Fassbender as the killer.
Yep.
Fassbender is a killer for hire, sent on a job like any other. He's detached. He's methodical in his process. He sees it as his job to, wrong note. His whole concept is stick to the plan and avoid empathy, be cold, calculated, get the job done, be ready when contingencies require it, anticipate, don't improvise. I mean, these are all
he tells you this whole
mythos that he's telling. But unfortunately, this job goes awry. So what happens when a hitman misses his mark? That's what this movie comes
It's
down
a question
to.
I've always had.
Well, a lot happens.
Yes.
This slow burn tale packs a lot of action with kind of serious introspection, I thought, as a cat and mouse game begins to unravel. First, he's on the run from authorities. As he
Right.
misses the shot, somebody else gets killed, and he's on the run. But soon he becomes the hunter when the repercussions for his miss hit home for him. And I thought Michael Fassbender was perfectly used in this.
I did too.
He
Yeah.
gives such nuance to this cold character.
Yep.
A squint of an eye. When he's not speaking, he's in the back of a cab or whatever. He's menacing without really having to do a whole lot. He doesn't have to rant and rave.
And Fincher sets that up so nicely with, his
He's a
shots.
master.
He's
David
so
Fincher's
good
a
at it.
master, but he doesn't have to talk to give off chilling vibes. But yeah, I think the star is really Fincher's directing in this movie.
I agree.
He manipulates the pace of the film like a maestro. Nothing is done on accident.
Yeah.
Everything is intentional in this.
It's one of those films where when you start watching it, there's not dialogue for the first 20 minutes or so, even beyond that, and it's all narrated by the killer, so to speak.
Which
by
normally
Fassbender.
I hate when it's a voiceover.
The same. I'm
but
the same
this
way.
really worked. I started to think about it. I go, well, this is a guy who doesn't really talk to anyone.
Right.
He sits by himself
Yep.
with listening to the Smiths. Like that's it,
Yes.
and so of course he's very introspective. He's got his own mythos of what he has to do. He's a solitary man, and so of course we're hearing his inner thoughts.
And the
'Cause
shots.
he's not talking a lot to anyone.
The shots that Fincher lines up keep it moving, keep you interested. Every shot is meant for something. So
Yes.
I really appreciated that because I'm the same way. I can lose interest very quickly when it's just a narrated piece, but it kept it moving and the suspense was building.
I think that's what Fincher does best. I mean, he's made some of the greatest thrillers of the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, incredible stuff. And he allows things to simmer and to kind of heighten tension.
Yep.
And make every movement that Fassbender is making matter. It's so intentional and methodical that it just starts to build this low tension that kind of rises along. Fincher always uses music well. This movie,
Yes.
I love when they use diegetic music where you're hearing music that the character is hearing.
I
It's
agree.
not just playing and they're not attached to it. This guy, I felt like part of this movie was because all he listens to is the Smiths. Like this
I
is
like
kind
the
of a
Smiths too.
I know, but what does it do to your psyche when all you do is listen to the Smiths? All you do because that's some mopey music in there, man.
It is. You're right.
And that's all you jam to.
Well, he has to lower his heart rate
That's
from
true.
100 plus to 60. So
That's true.
The Smiths made sense there.
I
I
mean,
also
that's-
like.
No, go ahead.
I also like every now and then Fincher will add just a little bit of a humor.
Yeah.
Like talking about McDonald's or the names
His
of his
aliases?
aliases. I'm like, awesome.
I had to write them all down because all of a sudden I started to keep track. I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, we got Reuben Kincaid. That's
Yep.
Partridge Family,
Partridge
right?
Family, Felix Unger.
Mr. Cunningham, Felix Unger, Oscar Madison, Sam Malone, George Jefferson, Lou Grant. And then the last one I had to look up, Robert Hartley, he went by the last one. I go,
Oh,
this
Bob
means
Hartley.
something.
Yeah.
I didn't know Bob
Bob
Newhart's
Newhart,
name.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and I appreciate that. I'm always kind of like, come on, nobody gets that.
Yeah, here you go, Mr. Jefferson.
Here you go,
Like,
here you go, Mr.
Jefferson.
Kincaid.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love that this isn't just like your John Wick actioner. There's some great action pieces in here.
There is.
But it's more interested in the code of killers, the internal thoughts of this. And it felt like his voiceover to me felt more like a Patrick Bateman in American Psycho type of scenario. Where he's kind of talking, another real weirdo who's talking you through, like, this is how my mind works. I don't know how human minds work.
That's a good analogy, I think.
But I thought it was great. How personal this gets. Features one of the great home invasion fights in movies.
But I always feel bad, too, in movies like this that I start to kind of side with the killer.
Sure, yeah.
Because you're like, this guy has killed how many people? But you end up feeling that way when you're watching this movie just because of what you know of him and what happens, that starts to happen to the people he loves. Yeah. So it made it pretty interesting.
Tilda Swinton shows up in the final act of the movie, basically. I'd almost forgotten that she was supposed to be in this movie until I was like, oh, yeah, there she is. But I think David Fincher is one of our greatest directors of the last 20-some years. I mean, with movies like Seven and Fight Club and Zodiac, Social Network, Gone Girl, like these are incredible films.
I kind of compare him to Hitchcock, especially when he's doing a thriller. He manages a film very much the same way that Hitchcock did, moving things with visuals, with sound, with looks on an actor's face,
everything.
Like you said, just those nuances.
Total control over what we get.
And that is just mastery, and that's genius to me.
Yeah, and I'm always when it was announced that he was going to be making films for Netflix, like he had Mank come out during the pandemic, and then this, I'm like, Fincher, what do you do? Like, man, you are a big screen guy. I know this played in sporadic theaters around the country. Of course, we never get those here in the Midwest. Yeah. I would have loved to see this on the big screen.
Yeah, me too. That's what I thought when I started watching it. It was like, well, it's too bad this is just on my television. Yeah. Because it would be great to see those shots.
What did you end up giving The Killer, sir?
Well, now after we've talked about it for a while, I should have given it a higher score. I gave it a 3 because I enjoyed it, and I gave the Holdovers a 4 because I liked that even more, so I didn't want to give it the same score, but it could have gone to a 4 to me.
I'm giving it a 4.5 again, just like The Holdovers. I love this movie. Yeah. I think it might be one of my favorite Fincher films. Just, I don't know. Wow. That's hard to say, because all the films I named, I love.
I like all of those movies.
They're all great.
Yep.
They're all great. All right, let's take a look ahead at what is coming soon, sir. The weekend of November 22nd. Is that right? That's Thanksgiving weekend. Oh, my gosh. Yep. Here we are. We have a few films. First, on the big screen, Napoleon. Ridley Scott tells the tale of the French emperor as portrayed by Joaquin Phoenix.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it looks great. We also have Wish, new Disney animated film about a young girl who wishes on a star, and the star comes down from the sky to join her. Voiced by Ariana DeBose, who I love. Yep. Also, we have Dream Scenario. Nicolas Cage stars as a regular schlub whose life gets turned upside down when millions of strangers start seeing him in their dreams. But dreams can turn to nightmares pretty quickly.
Looks interesting. He's always interesting.
Over on Disney Plus, we have The Naughty Nine, which stars Danny Glover as Santa Claus, who has to fend off 9 kids on the naughty list who band together to get their toys. We also have on Apple TV The Velveteen Rabbit, a new version of the Marjorie Williams classic. And lastly, over on Paramount Plus, we have Good Burger 2, a sequel to the 1997 film starring Keenan and Kel. We also have,
I don't even remember that film.
Welcome to Good Burger. How can I place
I don't think I ever saw it. I'm going to have to go back.
Keenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell back doing a sequel to a film what they did when they were teenagers.
Wow.
We also have, if you're into the Hallmark holiday movies, I noticed over on Peacock, every day they have new Hallmark movies dropping on Peacock. Every single day they have a plethora. So
I'm amazed at how many holiday movies Hallmark pumps out.
In the summer they're making like 50 of them all summer long. Like there's towns that are set up to be Hallmark Christmas towns in the middle of summer. People are out there in their jackets.
And when you watch one, you can always see like, oh, he's sweating a little bit, and they're wearing winter
92
coats.
degrees. He's got a parka on. Before we move any further, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie. Thank you for sponsoring this program. As always, we do appreciate it. Next week, I'm going to be joined by Kate Sadler to talk about The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Trolls Band Together, Next Goal Wins, and the Please Don't Destroy film, The Treasure of Foggy Mountain. It's going to be exciting there. Mr. Presser, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is the best time of year to be watching movies.
I hear word on the streets if people want to see more of you, they can go to the Civic Theater and see you performing.
Come see Sun Prairie Civic Theater's Sound of Music if you can, because it's a great show. You'll get to see me on stage instead of sitting here talking to you.
How exciting. Or if you want to see other things, make sure you tune in to Sun Prairie News. It's the best program this channel has to offer. and this guy is your host.
Well, I would say it's your show.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right, let's get out of here, sir. Until next week, I'm Jamison.
And I am Dan.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.